Clara and Nate's marriage had always been filled with love and promise, but over time, the spark that once defined their relationship had slowly diminished. 6 years into their marriage, the thrill of new beginnings had faded, replaced by the demands of everyday life, work, bills, and routine. Nate, a dedicated graphic designer, often found solace in his work, while Clara, a marketing professional, had once loved her job but now found it draining and monotonous. The late nights spent at the office and constant work calls left little room for the intimacy and spontaneity that had once characterized their connection. Clara began to feel a growing emptiness that she tried to fill with hobbies, friends, and even a heightened focus on her career, but it never quite worked. She missed the excitement that had once been a driving force in their lives. Their home, once filled with laughter and joy, had become a place of unspoken words and missed connections. Clara felt trapped in a life that, while comfortable, lacked the passion and adventure she had longed for. She wanted to reignite that fire, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized she didn't know how. At a marketing conference one rainy afternoon, Clara wandered through the exhibition hall during a break. The halls were buzzing with energy, people discussing trends and shaking hands. As she strolled past the booths, her eyes locked onto a familiar face, Max, her college ex-boyfriend. He was standing at a booth, effortlessly charming the crowd with his smile, the same magnetic energy she remembered so well. Max had been a pivotal part of Clara's life, their relationship filled with laughter, adventure, and an intense connection that had seemed destined to last. Life had pulled them in different directions after graduation, and they had lost touch, but seeing him again was like stepping into a long-forgotten dream. "Clara, is that you?" Max's voice broke through her thoughts, and a smile instantly spread across her face. It was as if no time had passed at all. They fell into an easy conversation, reminiscing about their college days, late-night talks, shared dreams, and wild adventures. Max was still the same, confident, carefree, and brimming with ideas. Being around him brought back memories of a younger Clara, the one who had been full of hope, ambition, and a thirst for life's excitement. "You look incredible," Max said, his eyes warming with admiration. "Thank you," Clara replied, a nervous flutter in her chest. The chemistry between them was undeniable, just like it had always been. "Let's grab coffee after the conference," Max suggested, his smile playful, and Clara couldn't resist. She nodded, feeling a rush of excitement she hadn't experienced in years, her heart racing at the thought of reconnecting with him. As Clara and Max continued to reconnect over coffee, the familiarity between them grew more intense. They found themselves slipping into old patterns, chatting effortlessly as if the years apart had never happened. The conversation flowed naturally, touching on everything from their current careers to their dreams for the future. Max, with his adventurous spirit and contagious energy, made Clara feel like she was seeing the world through a lens she hadn't looked through in years, full of possibility, freedom, and excitement. "You know, I always admired how fearless you were back in college," Max remarked, his voice soft with admiration. "You were never afraid to chase your dreams, no matter what. What happened to that girl?" Clara felt a pang in her chest at his words. The truth was, life had happened. The years of responsibility, the steady grind of her job, the daily routine with Nate, it had all led her away from the vibrant, ambitious woman she had been. "I got caught up in responsibilities," she admitted.
I guess I forgot how to dream.
Work, bills, life, everything just started feeling so mundane. Max's smile softened, and he leaned in closer, his eyes sparkling with that same infectious passion she remembered. "It's never too late to chase those dreams again. You're still you, Clara. You just have to remember that." The warmth of his words, coupled with the intensity in his gaze, made Clara's heart race. It was as if Max was reminding her of a side of herself she had long buried under the weight of routine and obligation. The connection between them was undeniable, and for the first time in a long while, Clara felt truly alive, filled with a longing to embrace that forgotten part of herself. As Clara's encounters with Max grew more frequent, the lines between her past and present blurred. The excitement she felt around him awakened something deep within her, a passion she thought had long since faded. Each time they met, it felt like she was peeling back layers of herself she had buried, forgotten pieces of her former self coming back to life. Max was magnetic, his easy smile and carefree attitude a sharp contrast to the heaviness she often felt at home. With him, Clara could breathe again, laughing freely, and experiencing the world in a way she hadn't in years. But with every stolen moment, the guilt in her chest grew heavier. She loved Nate. They had built a life together, a life that was supposed to be full of love and trust. And yet, as she spent more time with Max, Clara began to question everything. The warmth of Nate's presence, once a comfort, now felt distant, like something she could no longer grasp. The quiet evenings at home that used to bring peace now seemed suffocating. She wasn't sure if it was the weight of her secret or the nagging feeling that something was missing, but Clara couldn't shake the sense that she was living a life that wasn't entirely her own. One evening, as she and Max walked through the park after dinner, the air between them was thick with unspoken words. Max stopped and turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. "Clara, I can't help but feel there's something real between us. I know you're married, but I can't ignore what I feel." Clara's heart skipped a beat. She knew that what Max was offering was dangerous, yet the pull between them was undeniable. She was standing at a crossroads, and everything in her screamed to turn back, but the temptation to take a step forward was overwhelming. As the days passed, Clara's inner conflict intensified, her heart divided between the life she had with Nate and the allure of something new with Max. She couldn't ignore the growing distance between her and Nate, a distance that had been creeping in ever since they had settled into the monotony of their routine. When they first married, their love had been vibrant, filled with dreams and excitement, but now it felt like they were simply coexisting. The passionate spark they once shared seemed to have dulled over time, buried beneath the weight of everyday life. At first, Clara told herself that it was just a phase, that the restlessness she felt would pass. But every moment spent with Max made it harder to deny the magnetic pull between them. She found herself daydreaming about him during work, her mind replaying their conversations, the way his eyes would lock with hers, and how everything else in the world seemed to fade when they were together. Max made her feel seen, desired, and alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. One evening, as she and Nate sat down to dinner, Clara's unease simmered beneath the surface. Nate was talking about his day, oblivious to the turmoil within her. He smiled at her, and Clara couldn't help but wonder if he still saw her as the woman he had fallen in love with, or if she had become just another fixture in his life. She forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. The guilt gnawed at her, the secret of her growing feelings for Max threatening to spill over, leaving her trapped between the past and the future, unsure of what she truly wanted. Clara's world seemed to grow smaller with each passing day, consumed by the tension that lingered between her and Nate. Her mind constantly drifted to Max, and every interaction with him intensified the quiet dissatisfaction that had been building in her marriage. She tried to dismiss the pull she felt toward him, telling herself that it was just a fleeting distraction, a momentary escape from the reality of her life with Nate. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. Max made her feel things she hadn't felt in years: excitement, desire, and a sense of adventure. He was the reminder of the woman she once was, the one who took risks and chased dreams without hesitation. Meanwhile, Nate seemed unaware of the shifting dynamic. He was kind, reliable, and caring, but the sparkle in his eyes had dulled over time. He was content, comfortable in the life they had built together, while Clara found herself suffocating in the predictability. Their home, once filled with laughter and passion, had become a quiet space marked by routine and a growing sense of distance. One evening, as Clara returned home after a long day, Nate greeted her with a kiss, his arms wrapped around her as though nothing had changed. The warmth of his embrace only deepened the guilt gnawing at her. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. That night, as they lay in bed together, Clara's mind raced with conflicting emotions. The thrill of her connection with Max clashed with the love and loyalty she felt for Nate. She knew the path she was on could shatter everything she had, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late to turn back. As the weeks went on, Clara's internal conflict grew unbearable. She couldn't deny the growing tension between her and Max. Each stolen moment with him only deepened the connection they shared. Their encounters had become a whirlwind of passion, a distraction from the life she had with Nate. But as much as she was drawn to Max, Clara was equally pulled by the weight of her marriage. Every time she returned home to Nate, the contrast between the spark of her secret connection with Max and the quiet, familiar comfort of her life with Nate hit her hard. The guilt was suffocating, and yet the thrill of being desired, of feeling truly alive, made it difficult to walk away from Max. It wasn't just the physical attraction. Max awakened parts of her that she hadn't realized were still dormant, the spontaneous, carefree parts of herself she had buried beneath years of responsibility. With him, Clara could be the person she once was, the woman full of dreams and endless possibilities. But Nate was the steady, grounded presence in her life. Still, Clara couldn't help but wonder if the love she once had for Nate was enough to hold her back from the pull of the unknown. One evening, while Nate was in the other room, Clara found herself staring at her phone, the screen lighting up with a message from Max. "I miss you." The word sent a rush of heat through her chest, and for the first time, she felt the weight of the decision that was looming over her. Would she continue down this path, pursuing something that filled her with excitement but also guilt? Or would she turn back, embracing the life she had, even if it meant sacrificing the excitement Max had brought into her world? Clara's restlessness reached its peak one quiet evening. Nate, as usual, was absorbed in his routine, checking emails and answering work calls, his attention lost in the digital world. Clara, however, couldn't shake the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. She had tried to distract herself with hobbies, work, even taking walks around the neighborhood, but the memory of Max's touch, his words, and the excitement he sparked in her never quite left her. It was like a constant hum in her mind, pulling her away from the reality she had built with Nate. She had grown numb to the small, sweet moments of their marriage. The things that used to make her smile now felt routine and distant. That evening, as Clara wandered through the living room, she caught sight of the photograph on the wall, a picture of her and Nate on their wedding day, laughing, carefree, in love. It felt like a lifetime ago. She couldn't help but wonder what had happened to that spark. Had it truly vanished, or had it simply been overshadowed by the comfort of their daily lives? And why did the rush of being with Max feel so different? It was like a door she hadn't realized was locked had been opened, and now she couldn't close it again. Clara sank onto the couch, staring at the phone screen. Another message from Max appeared, "Thinking about you." The words were simple, but they cut through her, a reminder of everything she was torn between. The life she had with Nate, the safe, predictable love, or the risk of stepping into the unknown with Max, a thrilling adventure that could destroy everything she held dear. Every part of Clara screamed for resolution, yet she knew there was no easy way out. Clara's heart was a storm of emotions as she sat across from Nate, the weight of her secret pressing down on her with each passing second. The space between them, once filled with shared glances and quiet understanding, had become heavy and suffocating. Nate, ever the thoughtful partner, had noticed her distance, her quiet moments when she wasn't quite present, her late nights and restless days. He had become a shadow of the man who once swept her off her feet, and she feared that the distance between them was no longer just physical but emotional. Yet, she couldn't bring herself to tell him everything, the truth of her encounters with Max, the way her heart raced when she thought of him, the way his presence made her feel alive again. "Nate, we need to talk," she said softly, her voice trembling as the words left her lips. She had rehearsed this moment in her head countless times, but now that it had arrived, she was unsure how to begin. He looked up, his eyes heavy with concern, his face drawn with the weight of something unspoken. The familiar warmth of his gaze felt distant now, like a memory she was desperately trying to hold on to. "I've noticed," Nate replied, his voice tight. "You've been different lately." His words hit her like a punch to the stomach, each syllable a reminder of how much had shifted between them. Clara swallowed hard, her hands shaking as she clenched them in her lap. I don't know how to say this," she admitted, feeling the tears sting at the back of her eyes.
I'm lost, Nate.
"And I don't know how to find my way back." Clara spent the next few days in a haze, caught between the past and the present. Her mind would often drift to Max, to their conversations, their shared moments of vulnerability. It was impossible to ignore the connection they had rekindled, one that stirred something deep inside her. Yet, when she returned home to Nate, her heart would sink with the weight of the lie she was living. She tried to focus on the little things, the comforting rituals that once gave her solace, cooking dinner together, the sound of Nate's laughter over a silly movie, but they felt hollow, like trying to fill a void with an empty glass. One evening, as they sat on the couch, the soft hum of the television filling the silence, Clara found herself looking at Nate. He was absorbed in the show, but his thoughts seemed far away, distant. She had always admired the way his brow furrowed when he concentrated, how his lips would quirk into a small smile at something he found funny. Yet tonight, that smile seemed forced, like he was going through the motions just as she was. "Nate," she started, her voice quiet but heavy with meaning. He turned to her, his eyes flickering with curiosity but masking a deeper unease. "We need to talk," Clara whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. The words felt like a confession, like the dam holding back everything she had kept buried inside. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she reached for his hand. "I think I've lost myself," she admitted, And I don't know how to find my way back to us. Nate's expression softened, but there was no comfort in his gaze, only the weight of the truth about to unfold. The days after Clara's confession seemed endless, the tension between her and Nate thick and palpable. Every conversation felt strained, each word carefully chosen, but never truly reaching the heart of what was unsaid. Clara tried to keep up appearances, to be the partner Nate deserved, but it was like walking through a fog, a constant sense of being adrift. The connection she had once had with him, the love that had seemed like an unshakable foundation, now felt distant, like a memory slipping through her fingers. She knew the spark had been dimming, but now, faced with the truth of her emotions and the aftermath of her actions, it seemed like it was completely gone. The guilt of her secret meetings with Max lingered in every moment. Clara couldn't stop thinking about him, the way he listened to her, the way he saw her in a way Nate no longer did. She felt selfish for wanting to feel alive again, for wanting something more than the routine of their marriage. But what could she do? Could she keep pretending, burying herself in the life she had built, or was the truth something they needed to confront? One afternoon, as Clara sat in the quiet of their home, Nate walked in, his eyes tired but searching. There was a softness to his expression now, a vulnerability he hadn't shown before. "Clara," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion, "I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not." The words hit her like a punch to the stomach, and for the first time in weeks, Clara allowed herself to break. "I know," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I've been scared." And as she looked into his eyes, she realized that, for the first time in a long while, it was no longer just about avoiding the pain, it was about facing it together. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the demands of daily life, leading to emotional disconnect and lost desires. Clara's story reminds us of the importance of communication and honesty in relationships. We can't ignore our feelings or pretend everything is fine if it's not. Whether it's a friendship, marriage, or any personal relationship, addressing unresolved issues and being open with our emotions is crucial. If we don't take time to check in with ourselves and others, we risk losing what truly matters. Always remember, facing uncomfortable truths can ultimately lead to healing and growth.